Hope you're doing good today. Today's video, I want to talk about genetic mirroring, what it is, and how it is a very damaging loss. And I just want to make it clear that I'm not speaking for any adoptees other than myself and my experience and what I've read and researched and what the research says that I have experienced. So unless I say it's my opinion, it's not my opinion, it's my experience and what I've read and what I've talked to other adoptees going through. Everybody's adoption experience is different. This is just mine. And now that I have come out of what I know as the adoption fog, it is clear to me what mistakes happened, what lies I believed, and what lies are still going around, created what from I believe is the adoption industry. So I just want to make that a kind of baseline for the video, that this is my experience. I don't even have the power to talk for all adoptees, so it's giving me too much power if you say that don't speak for all adoptees. I can't, even if I wanted to. So genetic mirroring, what that is if you look at your biological family, you have the same eyebrows, same eyes, similar features, and not just physical. It is maybe the same laugh, maybe the same jokes, maybe the same mannerisms. You start picking up the same way you speak or whatever it may be. It's very, very obvious similarities. And I'm not saying that it's all good or all bad. I'm just saying from an objective view that you have the same DNA and you have similarities, that when you look around, you have mirrored that from birth to whatever. And this is me. I don't know exactly when that 94. Okay, so that's me, that's my family. Obviously I'm a little bit darker. So I'm Latino, which took me way too long to actually be confident in saying, and my family is white, and I was told that I was lucky and that it's like a beautiful thing, and that I don't know how lucky I am, and I was given way more opportunities and all this stuff that like I believed in my head, but in my heart, in my spirit, whatever, my internal experience, I wanted to die and I wanted to kill myself. And it's not a joke. I'm not saying that lightly. I'm just saying this has been my experience, and my pictures tell you a different story. Like, I had to create this persona of being a grateful person, and I didn't know adoption had anything to do with it. I thought I was lucky. I thought, oh, this is great, I have a family. This is my family. I didn't consider it anything else. If you don't know my story, I was fostered until 4 years old, and then my family adopted me, and I never jumped around foster homes. I never was homeless, or from what I remember, I don't remember anything from being fostered. I just don't remember, so I don't know anything that happened before that. But from age like 5, 6 on, I have memories of. But genetic mirroring is very, very, very confusing. A lot of people still don't consider this a loss, but I'm telling you that this is the most damaging loss and most confusing experience of being adopted that I have gone through and still go through. As I make these videos on this channel, people still say there's no such thing as loss, and that there is no grief, there's no pain, that I'm ungrateful, that I'm not thankful enough to be parented by my parents, and just a bunch of false things that are not true. So the loss of genetic mirroring, I didn't even know how to put it into words, right? So by the age of, when we moved to Georgia when I was 7, right? And this is the first picture that I've found that shows what elementary school we were in. That's me. A little bit darker than a bunch of kids, but as you can see, my parents decided to move to Georgia. Now, for them, it was fine. We lived in a white family. a white neighborhood, and I immediately started getting bullied. I immediately started experiencing racism. I was wondering, even in my family, like I would wonder why people were just mad at me for no reason. I remember thinking when I was young, I'm like, this person just treating me bad for no reason. Why? I don't get it. Like, because I'm a very easygoing guy. I'm very chill. I'm very shy and introverted around new people. And I just remember like adults being mad at me for no reason, and like kind of these what is called microaggressions in my family. Not my immediate family, like my family that I've showed you, but like relatives, people just kind of like having that, what are you little shit, like. And I don't know if that was like racism, but like I was definitely always felt like a second class citizen, like a permanent house guest in my family. And the way I was treated in my neighborhood, the way I was treated at school, the way I was treated at jobs, looking back, most people that are a different color, let's say like David Goggins was brought up in a white neighborhood, if you know David Goggins' story, Indiana, and he had issues with racism around white people when he was the only black kid in his school. He had his mom to go back to. At his darkest moments, he still had a house. I mean, he had a horrible childhood, but he had his mom who was black, and it's just different. I'm not saying it's any better or worse. I'm just saying it's different. I had to experience. So my mom and dad that raised me, my adoptive family, that's who I had to go for counsel when I was dealing with race issues. And the main thing that happened to me, which I want to make very clearly, was the most damaging thing that's happened to me was my parents moved us to Georgia, and it was an all-white neighborhood. Georgia is very racist, and I didn't know what racism was. My parents that adopted me did not prepare me for anything that had to do with race. They didn't teach me what my ethnicity was. The amount of times that I've heard that I'm Latino or Mexican from my adoptive family. What does that tell you? Like, to me, it just said that they weren't considering me. And they always taught me that race didn't matter, color didn't matter. So the isolation and confusion that I felt growing up is, I was suicidal from the age of 14 to about 30, 35. And what I know now, picking up all the pieces, is the race issues, the adoption narrative, the fog, it is so strong in our society that this genetic mirroring loss that I've experienced, I can't talk about. I can't talk about it in my family. They have taught me my whole life that I have false expectations because I did not have words to put into my race. Not only was I called white my entire life, I'm still called white to this day by my wife's Filipino family. They say that I'm white, and if I say I'm Mexican, they're like, oh, you're not even you're really light skinned, you're almost white. Like, I'm supposed to be ashamed of being Mexican or Latino or whatever. So I believe that I was gray growing up. Like, I'm trying to describe how difficult it is. I'm jumping all over the place. It's so difficult to describe that I literally thought that I was gray, and my mom would laugh and retell me the story when I was a teenager. She said, Ma, you yelled at your sister across from the bus that, hey, I think I'm gray, because there was only white people around me, and I knew I wasn't white. So I was trying to figure out what I was. And to me, my family moving us to Georgia around all white people and not teaching me anything about my ethnicity, about my race, and not meeting my biological family led me to feeling suicidal. And then they blamed me for being angry. And looking back, it's just the adoption agencies should be responsible for teaching parents about genetic mirroring, the need that it is, because I talked to it about my adopted father, and he still says that it's a false expectation and that he basically did no wrong. Like, from his point of view, he provided a loving, caring home and did everything right. He did everything he could. The race doesn't have any effect. Like, it doesn't have any effect on him or my white adopted family. I'm the one that now is responsible for everything. It's not my environment. It's not anything that they did. It is me, and I'm the one that takes all the burden of all my race issues, all of the racism that I went through completely alone with no counsel, no help. And if there's a message that I could get across to white adoptive parents adopting black kids or Asians or whatever that it may be, is it is a need that I cannot describe. Genetic mirroring and getting around other adoptees and other people that look like you, that the adoptee says they feel comfortable around, not how you feel like, oh, they should be friends or they should get along with it. It's such a deep rooted need to be around other people that look like you, that you feel like you connect with. Because I'm not sure if you ever seen the movie Get Out, but I feel like I was in the sunken place my entire life. I feel like that's what the adoption fog feels like, the sunken place. And this is when I was at my most suicidal. Look at that picture. Like, I am most depressed around this time of year, around Christmas. And I look happy. And a lot of people, they see adopted kids getting adopted and they're like, well, they look happy to me. They look happy to me. I have been suicidal for as long as I can remember, and it's directly related to my relinquishment and my adoption. And if you still think that telling adopted children that they're lucky or that they're somehow like being ungrateful, if gratitude could fix my race issues and racism, then gratitude would have worked for me, because that's what I bought into. I thought I was being ungrateful and I thought I was lucky, and it almost cost me my life. So I just I cannot explain to you the different types of losses that I've experienced in my own adoption, that other adoptees have told me as well, that people still call them ungrateful for, and that they believe that they're ungrateful for. And that then, you hear about the adoption rates being 4 times higher. I mean, the suicide rate being 4 times higher for adoptees. And I think that's a low number, because we have no voice. Our voice is taken away automatically. Just if you speak out about adoption, like I'm doing, you get massive resistance about you're being ungrateful. And that's just another rejection and abandonment and isolation, which is absolutely insane to me, that if you speak out about your adoption, what you've actually experienced, is somehow like you're trying to target your parents. And I love my parents, and I've had issues with them, but it's race issues and stuff that has just been massively misunderstood. And it's got nothing to do with gratitude. I'm going to tell you that right now, like nothing to do with gratitude. I'm having a really hard time putting this into words. I've thought about this my entire life on how I would tell somebody about my genetics. And I just want to leave one more thing. When I met my biological family, my brother was automatically resentful for me because I had issues in my adoption. He was mad at me because he thought I messed up a good opportunity. So my brother was obviously brought up in my biological family. He was not given the opportunities I was given. And that seems to be like what everybody sees. And nobody seems to notice like the needs of the actual adopted child, which in my case was, I lost my mother, I lost my father, I still never seen a picture of him. I've lost my brothers and sisters, I've lost my culture. I have now been called and labeled a race and ethnicity that I am not. And I've had no connection with my family. Like, There's zero connection. They don't seem to think that I am like grateful for my adoption. And then I was blamed for acting out and rebelling and having anger. And it has been a burden for me to carry and that I'm responsible for fixing. And it is an unimaginable burden that people still say is fake, that that is not there, it's not a loss. And it's just, it is so insidious, the loss and the mind games that have come along directly being related to being Latino in a white family. It is very, very, very confusing for me to have to logically, step by step, go through my life and figure out what the truth is and what the lies are. And I'm trying to put it out on camera for other maybe transracial adoptees that are alone, that don't have anybody else, that don't know how to speak about it, and maybe are suicidal, maybe are not. And what I learned in AA is, look for the similarities, look for what you identify with. If you don't identify with it, then this video is not for you. But if you can identify with some of it and it helps you, that's why I'm making these videos. If you're offended by it, I do apologize, because it is covering sensitive topics about adoption, people sacrificing their time and love and care, but I think there needs to be a change in the adoption narrative, and the adoptees' needs and the adoptees' voices need to be heard, and people need to learn the basic skill of listening. That's why I turned off the comments on this channel, because I'm tired of not being listened to, and it's my experience. But I love you guys. I hope this helps.